Welcome back to Simple Truth. We're in the book of Genesis, chapter 37. Been talking about Joseph. Started a series of pulling out some simple truths about Joseph. Last week, I talked about him being a shepherd, God prepping him for what was coming ahead. Let me go a little further in that verse, and I want to talk about a couple other things, right? It says in verse 2, Joseph being 17 years old, right? I should have stopped there and said that Joseph was young, right? Again, same type of thing as Timothy. Paul wrote to Timothy, hey, don't let people look down upon you because you're young. God can use whoever he wants to use, right? So he's 17 years old. He's pasturing the flock with his brothers. He was a boy with the sons Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives, right? And Joseph, it says, right, brought a bad report of them to their father. Let me stop there and talk about bad reports for a second, right? There are all kinds of bad reports, right? There are all kinds of things that we can say about other people all the time. And again, the Bible makes it really clear how we're to go about that, right? So Matthew, the chapter 18 principle says, listen, when you see a brother in sin, when you have a bad report about someone, I'm pretty sure what the Bible doesn't say is take that bad report and go tell it to everybody but the person that you have a bad report about, right? The Matthew 18 principle says, listen, when you see a brother in sin, you're to go to that brother, right? The Matthew 5 principle says, hey, listen, when you're praying and you remember that somebody has a bad report about you, right? Then you need to go to that person, right? Both of those very, very similar in nature from the standpoint of it's, hey, you need to go to somebody, right? And you need to talk with them. The Matthew 18 principle then goes on and tells us how we do all of those things. Notice that there aren't exemptions for that. And so what happens is this, that when you take a bad report and you decide to go to somebody other than the persons that it's about, right, first, then you're going to cause problems, right? Again, the Bible tells us in Galatians, right, that, hey, there's some sins of the flesh. And some of the sins of the flesh are lying, gossip, slander, division, all of those kind of things. It's what happens when you have a bad report about somebody and you decide to break, right, the biblical concept of that's supposed to be about you and that person, right? You should go and talk to that person. It's the similar thing as when you go to Walmart and you have a bad experience with a cashier. If you don't attempt to tell that cashier, hey, this was a bad experience, but instead you go through the whole experience, you leave, and you immediately go and find their manager and say, hey, I just want to tell you it was a bad experience, that to me, that's a problem. Because you're telling the store of a bad report, but you're not doing anything to help that person, right? It's one of the things I hate. I never fill them out. I can't stand surveys, right, at the end of your meal and those kind of things. Because if you're going to use them to bash your server, the service you got, but you have not told them about it, you didn't complain, you didn't say, hey, listen, this was bad service, that's a problem. Because what it means is you can talk about people behind their back, but you can't talk to them, right? So I'm done with the bad report. Joseph should have gone to his brothers, said, hey, you guys are a bunch of crooks. And you should probably fix this, right? But instead, he went to his father. Do you know what that brings up? Animosity, bitterness, anger, a bunch of frustration, a bunch of things that are inappropriate. Now, in Christian world, you and I, meaning me, we rationalize all of that by saying, I just needed other people to pray for. Right? So we walk up to people and say, oh, Robbie, can you just really pray for my wife? She really has some problems, right? No, that's not how we do it, right? What we really want is Robbie to say, hey, Andy, what's wrong with your wife? And then that gives me the ability to say, well, I'm really concerned about these things. We want to talk about people. It's what we want to do. But we're also planting seeds of doubt within people. We plant seeds of thought within people all the time. I do that. You do that. We all do that. We have a frustrating moment. Whenever I was going on a rant about toll booth workers that I now feel a little bad about because there are no toll booth workers where we live to bug and to get frustrated with. But the truth of the matter is, you're planting in people's minds a seed of, hey, these are bad people, right? Can't tell you how many times somebody came up to me and said, Andy, I had a really good experience with a toll booth worker the other day, right? Trying to say like, no, that's not my experience with them. But we plant seeds and then we wonder why those seeds grow. God says to you and I, we plant, we water, He grows things, and then we harvest, right? The enemy of your soul copycats. He counterfeits everything that God does. Every single thing that God does, he counterfeits. So the enemy uses the exact same process, right? He allows us to plant seeds within people's minds, within their hearts, within their lives, right? Plant an idea. Then what happens? We water it. Other people water it. Yep, I heard about this. Yep, I heard about that. Yep, you're right. Oh, yeah, that does look goofy. That does look wrong. There must be something sinister there. And then what happens? It grows. And then the enemy allows it to be harvested. At just the right time, something will happen, right? Where that is harvested. We see this, and we're going to see this in the story of Joseph. At just the right time, this seed that was planted, this bad report to his dad, it gets harvested later on, and Joseph pays the price, right? Super important concept that we remember. Words are important. I'm reminded of this all of the time. People are constantly saying, Andy, watch your words, watch your words, watch your words. Words are important because they're seeds that are planted in people's lives. So here's my challenge to you today. That is, listen. Be careful of what you're planting in the minds of other people, right? Minds are a seed bed, right? Ready for things to grow. Be careful what you're planting in that seed bed. Make sure you're growing, giving God a chance to grow the right things. Make sure that you're watering the right things because we want to harvest at the end. So I want to harvest friendship. I want to harvest love. I want to harvest goodness and gentleness and meekness and self-control. I want to grow patience. I don't want the fruit of the flesh. I don't want to harvest those things. So selfishness, jealousy, division, all of those kinds of things. I don't want those things. So be careful about what you're planting and what you're watering. See you next time for Simple Truth.